Hi, folks. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Meta-Realism. I wanted to remind you again that I have a little bit in this bottle of cola left. Then I'll have to open up another one, I suppose. Um, that is because, as I said before, my mouth dries out too quickly because I'm on drugs. Well, I'm on meds. I'm an autistic guy, and one of the meds I take, which was originally sold under the brand name Remeron, but is also now sold under the generic name mirtazapine, which is how I take it, has a really, really bad effect on my mouth. And I can talk for a while, but then after that, I am no longer able to talk that well. The quality of my voice diminishes, and so that's why I have this bottle of cola here, and I will be using it, I think, because I made a decision to do that for the first time today. I thought at first it would look unprofessional, but I mean, what am I going to do? I don't have somebody standing near me where I can lean back and somebody pours water into my mouth. That would be nice, but I don't. So, so I have to rely upon this cola for myself, and so I apologize for however it may look, but the, that's the way things go, unfortunately. I don't wish autism on anyone. This will make me a lot of enemies, but I am not a part of the anti-cure movement. I'm a part of the pro-cure movement. I am. I'm not talking about curing me because I am a adjusted 68-year-old high-functioning autistic. I have no idea what a cure would do for my personality. It might make me into a different person, as far as I know. But I do think that, especially for people who are low functioning, that cures might be desirable. I think they would be desirable. But even better if autism could be cured in vivo, meaning in the fetus or in the zygote, the fertilized egg. If they could detect autism that early and cure it before the person is born, then I think that would be a very, very good thing. And that is what I support, which has made me a lot of enemies already. And I assume the fact that I just said it now might make me even more. Do I care? No. I mean, being a commie, why would a commie care? I already have a lot of enemies. So one more enemy or two more enemies makes no difference to me. Now, the topic, Iran, Israel. We will discuss two different aspects of the conflict between Israel and Iran. I have been reflecting throughout the day on something I brought up in my previous podcast. Why is it that Israel chose to attack the Iranian embassy in Damascus, Syria, when it did? In other words, if all it took to start a war with Iran, which everyone knows Israel has been dying to do for years, if that's all it took, then why did it wait until now? I've been thinking about that for hours, and I've tossed around several possibilities in my mind, and I think I have it figured out. Maybe not. If you don't think I'm right, say so in the comments section, and I will read and respond to whatever you say, but I think I figured it out. Here is my tentative solution to the problem. First, Israel already had 80% support for its attack on Gaza and its continuing war against Gaza, which of course Israel calls a war against Hamas, but whatever. Israel likes what the Likud coalition is doing in Gaza. It may not like Netanyahu, it doesn't, but it likes the war against Gaza. Why? Because Israelis are angry that Hamas made its jailbreak into Israel and killed approximately 1,200 Israelis. Well, as of now, Israel has killed about 30 times more than that amount in Gaza. And most of the people that it's killed have been civilians, including babies in incubators, as I'm sure most of you already know, especially if you have been watching my series of podcasts on the subject. So Netanyahu looked around and said, my goodness, look at the support my coalition is getting from having a war against Gaza. Second, Bibi Netanyahu noticed, as I think anybody would, that the world does not approve of what Israel is doing. The world supports Gaza, not Israel, which is a major shift in public opinion, from a more pro-Israeli position to a more pro-Palestinian position. So I think that Netanyahu might have thought to himself, well, okay, we are already in the dumps when it comes to how we are regarded by the public around the world. So what does it matter if we start a war with Iran? One more war, who cares? Can we be any more in the dumps than we are now? And I think that you might say that if that is true, that Netanyahu has a point. In other words, why worry about public opinion around the world if that public opinion is so bad? Why worry about public opinion in Israel if that public opinion is already so good? In other words, a war on Iran, I suspect Netanyahu thought, and I don't pretend to read his mind, although maybe that's what I'm doing, would most likely not have that much of an impact. And I think he was right about that. Now, obviously, the attack on Iran which is the Syrian embassy, sovereign Iranian territory, was not appreciated by most countries. Joe Biden was not happy about it. A lot of countries objected to it, but Israel didn't care. Israel does not generally care that much about global opinion. It may care a little bit, but not that much. Maybe it cares in terms of, I don't know, tourism. But does Israel really care what people in the United States or France or England or Australia think about what Israeli policy is in terms of Gaza or Iran? I doubt it. And so, given the fact that you already had that configuration of high Israeli public opinion regarding Gaza and low global opinion regarding Gaza,
I suspect that Netanyahu thought to himself, now is a good time for another war. And that is why he bombed the Iranian embassy in Damascus, Syria. Now, I might be wrong, but that is the best explanation I can think of. Now, maybe other people have come up with it long before I did, and you've read it someplace else. If so, I apologize. I can only read so much in one day. I try to keep up with the latest stories, but I'm sure I miss things here and there. So maybe somebody else thought of it, but I just thought of it today, and so I figured I would convey that to you right now. Okay, so I think that may be the reason why Netanyahu chose to go to war against Iran. Whereas, in principle, he could have gone to war against Iran for the last 10 or 20 years. I mean, this is Netanyahu's third and most likely last term as the prime minister of Israel. When he is no longer prime minister, his war crimes tribunal will begin. And whether he is found innocent or guilty, I doubt he will run for office again. Although who knows? Who knows? I mean, look at Trump. Trump was impeached twice, convicted neither time, and now he is running for president of the United States again. So it is very difficult predicting the behavior of politicians. I think if Netanyahu decides in the future that he might be able to win, he will. Obviously, Benjamin Netanyahu likes power. Well, I think almost all politicians like power, which is why they become politicians, right? So maybe he will. Maybe he will. Most people have said this is the end, and I tend to agree with them, although I am not willing to shut the door on it, at least not yet. At least not yet. So we will have to see how this process unfolds over the course of Netanyahu's war crimes tribunal, which will start presumably after his prime ministership concludes, whenever that is. Plus, Netanyahu realizes that a war against Gaza and a war against Iran are likely going to be seen with considerable favorability in Israel. He doesn't care about the fact that most people outside the country disapprove of it. He cares about his own citizens. So when he saw that 80% of Israelis supported the war in Gaza, why wouldn't he go to war against Iran? I would imagine that surprised even Netanyahu. And if so, he was probably inspired by that statistic to begin that war against Iran. So whether I'm right or wrong, I don't know, but it is a thought that occurred to me today, and I figured that I would share it with you. And if you disagree with me, please leave a comment in the comment section, and I will try to respond to it. No, I will respond to it. You know, I wish that YouTube had a polling feature that you could set up a poll on your channel for a particular podcast. It doesn't, as far as I know, there is no such feature, but I wish it did, because that would encourage discussion. Now, online polls, speaking as a sociologist, are neither valid nor reliable. Why? Because they are based on accidental samples, not scientific or random samples. And so you have no way of knowing whether most of the people who have responded to your poll are representative of all of your viewers. But I don't care about that. That's not my concern. My concern here is in starting a conversation and polling, even if the poll is not necessarily accurate. And if there was a poll, I would point that out. I would not mislead anybody. I would say that please participate in the poll, but bear in mind that it is a non-scientific poll. But I still would like to see one. And now back to the cola for a moment, because my mouth has dried out once again, and I'm sorry, but I've got to do this.
Well, maybe not, maybe got to is not right. But if I didn't, the quality of my voice would rapidly deteriorate. Okay, now on to another story related to Iran. Different, but also related to Iran. This story is from 2 hours ago, and right now it is almost 5 a.m. on April 20th, almost 5 a.m. And so this, I guess, was 3 a.m. on April 20th. The story, which is very short, is headlined, Iran will respond at a quote unquote maximum level if Israel acts against its interests, says foreign minister. The Iranian foreign minister
Said on Friday that Iran will respond at an immediate and maximum level if Israel acts against its interests. In an interview with NBC News, the foreign minister said, speaking through an interpreter, if Israel wants to do another adventurism and acts against the interests of Iran, our next response will be immediate and will be at the maximum level. And then the story concludes, his comments follow reports of an Israeli strike on Iran early Friday. Well, okay. That story confuses me. Why? Because Iran said that if there is another attack by Israel on Iranian interests, that Iran would respond immediately. Why is Iran saying the same thing again? Now, maybe I am mistaken. Maybe the story is not that clear. Maybe what this is from is before the second Israeli attack on Iran. But since the story was from only 2 hours ago, it doesn't sound like it to me. But maybe it is. Maybe it was from before it. Who knows? But let's assume, for the sake of argument, that this particular account or remarks by the foreign minister were made after the second Israeli strike on Iranian soil. Why would Iran be saying again that if Israel attacks us, our response will be instant, immediate, whatever? It already said that. By making that kind of comment, and again, maybe what I'm saying is incorrect. Maybe the story was from before the second attack. It makes Iran look weak. It does. Speaking as a sociologist, I'm not a specialist in political sociology, but as a sociologist, I have some knowledge of political sociology. And I know that if you back down from a threat, if you say, well, if you attack us again, we will really, really strike back. And then you repeat the same thing again? Why? It doesn't make any sense to me. The only explanation I can think of is this: Iran is afraid of a war, a protracted war with Israel, because it knows that it will most likely lose. Iran certainly has its share of drones and missiles, but nothing compared to Israel. So in any extended war with Israel, Iran will lose. By definition, whatever Iran says is puffing. And certainly politicians engage in puffing all the time, just like advertisers do when they say that our product is the best product on the market. By the way, that is legal. You can say that. You can puff all you want when you're selling a product, as long as you do not make a specific claim, like our product works 24 more percent than our competitors. That, if it's not true, would be a violation of the law. But if you simply say we have the best product on the market, that is perfectly legal. And politicians do the same thing. So what I can think of as a possibility is that Iran is simply continuing to puff. Why? Because Iran has proxies, just like Israel has proxies, like the United States, like Jordan, and the United Arab Emirates, among many others. In the case of Iran, they have the Houthis, they have Hezbollah, and they have Hamas. And so, by using one of its proxies, that could be a way of keeping the war away from Iranian soil. So maybe that's why this comment is made. Again, the logical explanation to me is that whoever wrote this article made a mistake, meaning the article should have said that this statement was made before the second attack. But if this statement was, as it appears, made after the second attack, it really shows weakness. And that is the last thing that a country, even a country that is relatively weak militarily in comparison with Israel, wants to show. You do not want to display weakness. That's the last thing you want to do, because then you are simply inviting further reprisals by your enemy. In this case, that enemy is Israel. So, in any event, I don't know what to make of this story. On its surface, it seems odd, but maybe there's some other explanation that I'm not thinking of, or again, maybe the story was simply poorly composed. So we talked about two things. First, the general outline of the current war and why the war is proceeding the way it is, and why Israel chose to attack Iran now as opposed to 10 years ago. And the second thing is why it appears as though Iran is responding so tepidly to a second strike by Israel. But I guess we will find out in the coming hours if there was actually a mistake and we will have to deal with it then. For the time being, this has been Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Metarealism. Have a pleasant day and an even better day tomorrow.